Forrest Gump. Yep. I don't know how many of you knew that it was actually a book, but yes, there was a book. And then there was a second book. We're talking about the second book. Let's find out what happened to Forrest Gump after Forrest Gump. All right, Gump and Company. This was written by Winston Groom. This guy is a remarkable dude. Historian, Vietnam vet, and kind of looks a little bit like Forrest Gump. That's him back in the Vietnam War. He served one tour, and he came back, became a historian and a novelist. He actually wrote his newest novel, El Paso, in 2016. I haven't had the chance to read that yet, but I'm gonna do it because I read the first Forrest Gump, and then I read this one. I actually read Gump and Co. read Gump and Co. first, and then went back and read the original. And I gotta tell you, I learned a lot. They stuck pretty true to the story whenever they made the 1994 movie with Tom Hanks, but they left out one part. And I can kind of see why, but Forrest Gump gets in a spaceship by NASA, and he goes to space with a orangutan named Sue. And that actually happens in the story. But the orangutan is freaking out in space. So then it crash lands in New Guinea, and Forrest and his orangutan Sue get captured by cannibals. So I think the producers and Eli Roth were kind of like, yeah, this is a little intense. So they cut that part out. But he actually got the Pulitzer Prize for a book called Conversations with the Enemy in 1984. Winston Groom is an accomplished writer. I'm excited to dive into his other stuff. But these two books were awesome. The first book, they don't paint Forrest Gump so much as an idiot. That was kind of added. And then a bunch of phrases were added to the movie. But I think whenever he originally created it and saw... set sights on doing a movie, he kind of wanted John Goodman to be the guy who would play Forrest Gump. He saw him that way because Forrest Gump in the book is a little bit more profane. He cusses a lot, and he's not so dim-witted. The book originally sold 30,000 copies. After the movie, it sold 7 million. Oh, I'm sorry, 1.7 million. I'm not sure where it's at today, but I don't think a lot of people know that it was a book, so... Winston Groom, Forrest Gump. Go check it out. But today, Gump and Co. This was written in 1995 after the 1994 movie, almost as kind of a response to the movie. In the first page, it states, "Don't never let nobody make a movie out of your life story." It adds also whether they are right or wrong. I think he adds that because they stuck to the story pretty well, except for obviously the orangutan in Nassau, but they stuck to the story pretty well, yet they royally fucked Winston Groom over. Paramount bought the film, or bought the book rights, and he signed a contract with his accountant that said you'll receive 3% of the movie ticket receipts. Well, once the movie got out, he's not making any money, so he comes and said, "What's going on?" It went to court, and the judge said, "Yo, dude, you trusted your accountant? Like, you're at a loss." So they kind of screwed him over, and I don't know what his thinking was there. It would be interesting to talk to him. So Winston Groom, if you're listening, comment and let us know, because I know this next book is going to put into a movie, possibly. It's in what they call developmental hell. And we'll see if it becomes a movie. We'll see if you think it should become a movie. After you listen to this and hear the plot, comment below and let us know what you think. Gump and Co. If the first book took place through the 70s, through the 50s, through the 70s, this book is the historically accurate events, and Gump's interaction with those events through the 80s and the 90s. We meet a slew of characters, and we touch on a number of headlines. Ginny has not died yet. That didn't happen in the book. So Ginny is sick with cancer or whatever sickness she has, and Gump has a booming market of shrimp, and his Gump and Co. company is doing Bubba Gump Shrimp Company is doing awesome. But Lieutenant Dan gets a little bit greedy, and he says, "I'm gonna sell all my shares. I want a swanky retirement. See you later." Screws Gump over. So kind of rings back to Winston Churchill or Winston Groom getting screwed over by Paramount. But so Bubba Gump's dad says, "I'm afraid, son, you have been ruined." And he's right. Gump got ruined. He has to go and work as a janitor at a strip club in New Orleans. But who does he meet there? Snake. Not a historical character, I don't believe, but he played for the New Orleans Saints. And he says, "Gump, remember we played in Alabama together? I would love for you to come and play on the team with us." Well, Gump, he gets recruited for another football team, the New Orleans Saints. And things start to improve for them. They weren't doing so well. But then in the middle of it, like some bad things happen to him. And they say, or his wife dies, Jenny dies. So he's like, "I need to go attend the funeral. I'm going to miss this game." They say, "You're going to miss the game. You're out." And they kick him off the team. So then he has to go and find a new job. And he starts selling encyclopedias. If you're from the 80s, you'll remember encyclopedia door-to-door salesman. So he goes around selling these books. He's working for a guy named Slim, and Little Forrest is with him. Remember Little Forrest? And he says, "Hey, look at these books. These are not accurate. Like, this is not the definition of this, and this did not happen." He brings this up to Slim, and Slim says, whatever, man. Just let history get skewed. Just ignore that. Keep selling them. So he keeps selling the books. He actually meets the Hopewells. And there is a lot of historical accuracy to this. He meets the Hopewells. He goes in, and the wife is like, "Hey, come and sell your book in my bedroom." And she tries to sleep with him. And he's trying to refuse. He's not really sure what's going on. He says he's thirsty. So he goes to the kitchen, and she says, "Make whatever you want." He notices there's a Coke, but it tastes funny. It doesn't taste like what he thinks a Coke should taste like. So he starts adding things to it. And then he gets it to taste a certain way. Well, it turns out Mr. Hopewell comes home. Instead of getting mad at him, says, "Wow, you have created this Coke. I am the guy who's trying to create New Coke." 1985 New Coke. Do you guys know about that? Well, it was a hit. Terrible success. And even Fidel Castro commented on it and said, "This thing sucks." Well, supposedly, in this story, Gump's the one that invented it. He has New Coke. He produces it, and they have kind of an emperor's new clothes type thing where someone says, little boy says, "This sucks." They bring him to Atlanta to try to recreate how he created that Coke. They even create the whole kitchen so that's perfect, and he just can't create it. So they actually run him out of town. He was running. I had to do that. But he gets run out of town. Him and Forrest, they get on a train, and they go to a pig farm. And they're working at a pig farm now. And the pigs are producing a lot of shit. But Little Forrest notices, "Hey, this pig food is really expensive. I noticed that the pigs like garbage. Why don't we just feed them garbage?" And the guy who is in charge of that, Mr. Vickers, is like, that's genius. Let's do it. And so they go to the local army base, and they take all their garbage. They say, "Hey, we'll take all your garbage for you." They start feeding it to the pigs. There's a ton of pig shit. And then they notice that they can take the pig shit and they can turn it into a power plant. So they create this power plant on opening day. They open it up and say, "The new pig shit power plant." And Forrest forgets to check the regulator. So the power plant explodes and it shoots pig shit all over the whole crowd. And he gets run out of town again. So Forrest is once again running. But at this point, he runs into Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan is feeling bad about himself because he fucked over Gump. And now he is saying, "I'm homeless, I'm half blind, and I got fucked over by the retirement people who own the company. Now I have nothing." So those two hang out, and they eventually meet Oliver North. And they get involved in the Iran-Contra scandal. They meet the Ayatollah. They meet Reagan. And ultimately, it all falls back on Gump. He's the one that kind of gets them all in trouble, and he's the one that gets the blame. He actually goes to jail. A ton of bad shit is happening to Gump in this. And he goes to jail, and at this point, they have a work release program. If you remember from the 1980s, the Heritage USA Park, this was a park that produced an amusement park for Christians. Everything is Christian-based. Well, he's in what they call Heritage USA, or in the book, it's called Holy Land. And he is Goliath. And then there's a funny guy that's playing David for a reenaction in front of all these Christian people. He would do this every day. But there's a funny little guy that talks about Jodie Foster all the time. Yeah, we're talking about John Hinckley Jr. And John Hinckley Jr. plays David, and he chucks rocks at Forrest because he's this big dude, and every day he's getting hit in the head with rocks. Well, one day he just gets pissed off, and he picks up John Hinckley Jr. and he throws him into a circuit board. Well, the circuit board gets hit and malfunctions, and then it opens up this wall, and we see James Baker having sex with Jessica Hahn. And if you're from the 80s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So some chaos erupts there. People are pissed. All these Christians are pissed that this really famous reverend is having sex with a Playboy model. And he gets kind of captured in the process by, I hope I say this name right, Ivan Boesky. And Boesky is actually the inspiration, real life person, inspiration for Gordon Gekko. He was a white collar criminal, and he is responsible for what they term Black Monday 1987. But Ivan Boesky hires Gump on and says, hey, man, because he sees this guy's like a dim-witted dude, and he's like, hey, just sign all these papers. I'll pay you $250,000 a year. So Gump is making money. He's making it rain. You know, he's getting the money coming in, and then Ginny actually comes back as a ghost and says, hey, listen, you're falling off course here. But he ignores her, and he has sex with a secretary. He does cocaine. Yes, Forrest Gump does cocaine in this book. It's Wall Street. But eventually they get busted. So Michael Milken, Ivan Boesky, and all these other characters get busted with Gump, and they go to trial. Well, guess who actually persecuted them as prosecutor was Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani, yes. He was the prosecutor at the time, and they make that clear in this book. But in the middle of the prosecution side, Black Monday, stock markets fall, 1987, people are freaking out. Well, the MPs come in and smash Gump on the head and steal him away, and they say, hey, you never finished your service. You know, you went on medical leave. Remember that from the first book, first movie? Well, it's time for you to finish your service. So they send him to Alaska, and he works on a rig, and he actually meets Sergeant Kranz, who is a person from earlier, and he was from the army base, the one that allowed them to use the trash. Well, he's working on this, and he gets in a fight with Mr. Vickers. I'm sorry, it was Mr. Vickers. He gets in a fight with Mr. Vickers, and they crash the rig, the Oriental Nicety. This is a huge headline as well. It caused an environmental disaster. The army's freaked out. They're thinking, man, this guy just keeps screwing up. We need to get him out of here. So they can't court-martial a Medal of Honor winner, so they send him to West Germany, get him far away. And there, he managed to get himself in even more trouble. When he's there, he gets on a football team for people called the Sauerkrauts, and he's playing a game against the Wiesbaden Wizards, who are like the intelligence unit. They're all playing football. He kicks the football over the wall, and when it's on the other side of the wall, he thinks, well, I'll just go get it. He climbs over the Berlin Wall, goes onto East Germany, gets it, comes back, and people are like, whoa, he just did that. Everyone starts crossing the wall. And then the wall falls down, and yes, Forrest Gump caused the wall to fall down. And we get the whole thing, Reagan's speech with Gorbachev and all that stuff. But they think, oh man, you just ruined a ton of stuff, Gump. You just ruined all these spy and espionage tactics we were employing. Send him somewhere else. Can't court-martial him because he's a Medal of Honor winner. So they send him to the Persian Gulf War, where he is in a tank platoon, or a whole outfitting of tanks. And he, once again, meets Lieutenant Dan, and for some reason, the orangutan's back. So the orangutan, Lieutenant Dan, and Forrest Gump, all riding in a tank. Their mission is to go assault the enemy. Well, they get the chance to capture Saddam. So they capture him, and they bring him back, to Norman Schwarzkopf. Do you remember this character from history? And Norman says, what are you doing, man? You captured him. That was I guess that was the goal, but it wasn't in your plans. We got a lot of things going on with Saddam right now, and this is not good for us. You need to send him back. So they have to take Saddam and bring him back to his palace. Well, in the process of coming back from that trip, Lieutenant Dan gets killed by friendly fire. And so he just kind of heads back home, and he starts harvesting oysters, which is something Lieutenant Dan was into. He makes a ton of money, and he thinks, I want to invest. So he goes to Whitewater, and he invests with the Clintons. We all know the kind of scandal that happened there. And people start talking about how successful his business is for oysters, and they notice that he has a lot of black people in there, and they say, this is racially integrated, this is strange, we don't like this, and he argues against that and says, screw you, and the book kind of ends there. This book was wild. I would say Well, Larry King said, "This is the funniest novel I have ever read." And the San Francisco Chronicle said it's a delight. The New York Times, though, said this was tiresome. We didn't like this book. But I say this book was amazing. Winston Groom is as much a historian as he is a great novelist. If Forrest Gump, the original one, was the Odyssey, this would be the Iliad. A long event, a long, strange journey of bad events, unfortunate events. It runs at a healthy pace. It is well written, and it keeps your attention. I think it's a very straight to the point, less descriptive, but very engaging book. It makes you laugh, cry, cringe, think, and consider. I loved it.